Challenger decks have been announced for 2022, and here's what to expect. Welcome to Collectors of the Coast. I am Cash. Today I wanted to talk Challenger decks have been announced for 2022, coming a little later than last year, and so kind of wanted to go over what to expect. There was little surprises when they did them. I was actually super surprised. I was speculating last week on what the Challenger decks would be, and I figured Is It Epiphany would definitely be in there, and it was like the strongest deck consistently all year, probably the most played, and oddly they didn't choose to do it. So I wonder why. There's always reasons why this thing. I guess maybe they want to keep some of those cards from being played maybe as much, maybe trying to keep values, maybe there's going to be a reprint in one of the coming sets. But yeah, so the ones that have been announced, mono white aggro, which is kind of the weenie format. It's been probably the biggest deck at the moment, but wasn't the biggest deck all year, but it's kind of got better and better as you went along. So the mono white aggro, also a mono green stompy. So got a little stompy deck. Was surprised they actually did this deck just because it was last year they did the same kind of deck, and I didn't think they'd do it 2 years in a row. Dimir Control is another one, which is fairly popular in the meta right now. So not super surprised to see that, though it wasn't really on my top list. I wasn't sure what they were going to have in black. They could have went Orzhov and went with some of the counters, maybe something fun like that, but they ultimately went with the Dimir Control. And then Rakdos Vampires, which I don't think was on anybody's list of decks they thought were going to happen. Maybe there's some vampires coming in the next set, but I don't think I don't think they can put them in at this point. So surprised they did the Rakdos Vampires. Maybe they thought it was going to be bigger than it is, but it just hasn't really done much in the standard game right now. I think it ranks something like 12th for most effective decks, successful decks in the meta. So really surprised. So we will spend a couple minutes. There were a couple other ones they could have went through. There was pretty good Jund decks as well right now. Mono black has been pretty good. Orzhov, like I said, Orzhov mid-range. I'm just really surprised there's not Is It, because there's been multiple versions of that deck that have done really well. I think Is It Treasures, Is It Epiphany, been two super big decks. Is It Dragons is a big one. So just various versions of that deck. So super surprised. So I want to go into the decks, kind of maybe what we could expect, what cards we might see massive reprints on, because we're going to see those cards probably go down a bit in price, some of those value cards. We'll start with mono white aggro. Alright, so there's various versions of a mono white aggro, so I'm kind of going from what I think are some of the more common cards in it. So some of the more common cards in it that you might see, first of all, in the deck, and we might see 3 ofs or 4 ofs, because 1 ofs are probably not going to have a super huge amount of, they're not going to have as much of an effect on the prices, but definitely those 4 ofs are gonna kill the value of the cards. You're going to see those $5 cards go down to probably like $1 or $2. So the first one was Adeline Resplendent Cathar. She's become popular over the last little bit, and we're talking about a $5 or $6 card. Expect at least 2 of her in the deck. We could see 3 or 4, and that card it's a good card, but I just don't think it's good enough to hold value. So we'll probably also see Brutal Cathar in the decks. He's been super popular, not quite as high of a value on the card. Don't think it'll probably actually change his value all that much, but expect a couple, if not 3 or 4. We'll see some commons. We'll see Battlefield Raptor probably, Chaplain of Arms, not big value cards. Clarion Spirit's already been, I think it was in a deck last year, so I don't think it's going to go too crazy on the cost. But some of the big cards that I think will really get hit in this, Intrepid Adversary, I assume there's going to be at least 2 of them in the deck. Intrepid Adversary right now going for about $13. And that card's going to probably go down to $4 or $5 because just the amount of these on the market. Great card, but yeah, it's gonna get killed. So you might want to consider selling your Intrepid Adversaries and then just picking up one of these decks with the cash you have left over and getting them back in a couple months. So Luminarch Aspirant, which has been a really good card from the last couple of years. That's been a really popular card in these decks. And I would be surprised if we don't see at least 1 copy of it in. I don't know. I don't think there'll be 4 of, but it's possible. So we might see Luminarch Aspirant as well. And then you'll see things like maybe Usher of the Fallen,
There is a 15-card sideboard to these decks, so we might see, we're probably going to see Maul of the Skyclaves, which has been kind of, it's been kind of killed a little bit in price because it's been done a couple times now. Fateful Absence, really popular instant in Standard right now, probably the best white removal spell. And we'll see a class. We're no doubt going to see at least one Paladin class in the deck, if not 2 or 3. So expect that. That card's at good value right now, but it's going to get dwarfed. It's a good card. I don't know if it's a good enough card to handle that much reprinting in the short term. So long term, a lot of these cards will bounce back, but we've seen things like Bone Crusher Giant that just really got crushed by these decks in previous years. And the value, even Rankle was like $20, and I think now it's maybe $8 or something like that. Maybe I could be off. It might be $6. It's really got killed because of the reprints. We also are going to expect Faceless Haven, which has been a super popular land. Everybody is playing it. It has made snow. It is worth just putting snow in your deck just for Faceless Haven. And Faceless Haven expecting at least 2 of that in the deck, if not 4. So it'll be a card. So they will have a sideboard, so we expect things. I'm pretty sure we're going to see Raidane in this deck. I would almost. It has to be. It has to be. So we're going to see at least, if not in the main deck, we're going to see Raidane in the sideboard. We could probably maybe see another Brutal Cathar in there. Portable Holes one. Pithing Needle could be in there. Guardian of Faith I've seen in some decks. Elite Spellbinder. That could be a 4 of in the deck, or it could be a 1 or 2 of in a sideboard. Really hard to know when they're doing these things. But yeah, a lot of these cards are going to get hit. Guardian of the Faith right now, $5. So, you know, getting say 3 of those printed in this deck would really kill it. I suspect we're only going to see maybe 1 of them in the deck. So, so that's our mono white deck. Now, I don't think there's anything that's too crazy except for the adversaries. So if I were you, I might sell right now on the Intrepid adversaries. And then consider buying when the price goes up, because as soon as they're announced, these decks and what's in them in the next month, those cards are probably going to go down in value. All right, so the second one they announced was Dimir Control, so we got our blue-black deck. There are some big cards in this one, so there's a lot of like jank that is pretty cheap, but there's a couple big price cards that. It would be actually nice to have a little bit more supply on the market of some of them, because they are kind of crazy in cost. But a lot of the deck, it feels like the deck's going to be very heavy on a few cards. So we're expecting one. Sedgemoor Witch is guaranteed to be in this deck. It'll be somewhere between 2 and 4 of them. And so Sedgemoor Witch holding some good value at about $4. But it's likely going to go down. You're probably going to see it at around maybe $2, maybe $1 after these come out. The big one that is the creature that's everyone's playing is Lear, Disciple of the Drowned. She is an absolute beast of a card, and I actually don't think they're going to put too many of these in here. I expect at least a 1 of Lear, and there might be 2. I would be surprised if they do 3 or 4. But to do this deck properly, you got to have at least 1 Lear in there. So expect Lear will be reprinted, maybe as a 1 of, possibly 2. So other cards that seem to be popular in this deck, the Celestis has been getting some play, Siphon Insight, Power Word Kill, Test of Talents, Infernal Grasp. You're going to probably see 2, if not 4 of those in the deck. Jasari Disruption will be in there. Fading Hope, really good common. Behold the Multiverse has been popular. Consider, which does have some value. You're going to see that value go down. It's going to be in the deck for sure. Probably 4 of them. Also Divide by Zero, really popular card in it. Blood Chief's Thirst has still been getting lots of play, so that card's going to probably be in there. And Duress, you might see a couple of those in there. So Planeswalkers, a lot of people playing Sorin in this deck. Maybe just 1 of them, so we could see Sorin reprinted in this. I kind of feel like he's not going to make it in. I feel like they're going to put something else in, but it's a possibility, folks, that could happen. So the one thing that I'm excited about is we're going to see some more of these lands, these creature lands. I was trying to buy some of them recently for some decks. They go almost in any deck of that color, and I expect to see 1, if not 2, of Hive of the Eye Tyrant from the Forgotten Realms set. And some of the Hall of Storm Giants. We expect to see at least 1 of both of those. Likely going to see Field of Ruin in the deck as well. So some really good lands. We might get to see a Pathway or a Shipwreck Marsh in there as well. You know, they're not going to jam too many of them in, but we might see as many as a couple of them in there, and so that's going to really drive the value. The Marsh in particular has been a super popular land and is holding really good value. So you'll probably see that price go down just a little on the land, but except still it's going to stay $7, $8, $9 on the land. So we'll get our swamps and our islands, and then so in the sideboard, almost everybody sideboarding Meathook Massacre in this, which is the big will they or won't they in the deck. It's, you know, right now we're talking about $50, $60, maybe $70 for a Meathook Massacre. So if this is in, this deck is going to sell. The challengers are going to sell. So expect, I don't know if I would say expect it or not, but wouldn't be surprised if we see a one of Meathook Massacre in this deck, which of course will bring that card price down to kind of rates that people can afford. So that's kind of the big one. That's the other one we could see, Malevolent Hermit, which is a really popular card in the deck as well. It's got a bit of value. I expect we're going to see one in the sideboard as well. So the next one was the biggest surprise for me in the decks, and that was the Rakdos Vampires. Just don't think that it's doing well enough, that enough people are playing it, that it's going to sell. So what are they going to sell this deck with? What are they going to put in? There's a few versions of the deck. I feel like that they're going to go with one of the versions that actually has more pricey cards, because some of them have, like, there's not much in there that's sought after. So the version of the deck I saw that I think might have some cards of value that people might buy these decks for, Bloodthirsty Adversary is in it, and that card's been doing pretty well. It's a pretty popular red. Even in mono red aggro, it's a pretty popular card, so wouldn't be surprised to see that in the deck. Florian Voldurin Scion could be in the deck. He's got a bit of value to him. Blood Harvester, Voldurin Epicure, both a couple of cheaper cards. Bloodvial Purveyor, a card that I actually think is a little undervalued at around 50 cents right now. Wouldn't be surprised at all to see 4 of them in the deck. I guess it's going to stay at 50 cents. Might go down to 35 but it's a real bomb, and especially in a more of a limited kind of format. So Vampire Socialite, no doubt going to have 4 of those in there. And Falconwrath Pitfighter has been another popular card in it. So we'll have some kill cards, Infernal Grasp and Power Word Kill. Infernal Grasp is holding some good value right now. Expect that card to go down in value. Hard to sell it. It's not worth enough to really make money on or anything like that. We'll probably see Go Blank to get rid of your graveyards in it. So the cards that I think will drive this deck that are likely we're going to have one in it. So I guess the question is, Sorin was a potential for the other deck, the Dimir, and I doubt they're going to put him in 2 decks. So I would expect 1, if not 2, Sorin the Mirthless in this thing. And he is pretty sought after. He's doing well. When he came out, he was kind of unsure. People were kind of trying to figure out his home. He has found a home in a couple of decks now, and he is holding good value. So expect a Sorin in there. If you're really looking at your Sorin and you're not playing them a ton, this might be the time to sell on them. Sell high, buy low. You know, buy the deck in a couple months with the profit you made on selling them now. So we might see. We're probably going to see a Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Wouldn't be surprised if I see that in 2 decks. Den of the Bugbear has been holding really good value in the land slot. And I expect that we're going to see at least 1 of Den of the Bugbear in it. And this might be just where the value is in the deck, is just in the lands. So generally speaking, we have 4 Haunted Ridges and 4 Blight-Set Pathways. We know we're not going to get that in a Challenger deck, but don't be surprised if we see a 1 of or a 2 of those lands in the Challenger deck. So other cards that do see some play in the deck, sometimes in the sideboard, sometimes in the main, Angie, Maid of Dishonor, good card, a Braid, and some people are playing Valky in the sideboard. And it would actually not surprise me to see a copy of Valky in this deck. It's cheap enough. It's like a $14 card right now, but wouldn't be surprising with the value, and it hasn't really been reprinted in any way yet. So wouldn't be surprised to see if they threw a Valky in there just to put some value in and make people buy the deck. All right, so the last Challenger deck that we have is the Gruul one, so green and red. Again, a little bit of an interesting one. I'm not surprised that maybe they did one of the vampires or werewolves, but it doesn't really get a super amount of play at the high levels of standard right now. So a little bit of a surprise that it is there just from that. But again, not such a surprise just because of the actual cards and what they're really pushing right now. So I'm expecting it'll probably be a werewolf deck, probably that theme to it. So some of the cards we'll see in it, we'll probably see maybe one Ill-Tempered Loner, a card I actually really like, only around like 80 cents or $1 on the market right now, but a card I really do enjoy playing. I think it's really strong, and I think I can play it in lots of formats, but I guess we'll see. It's been kind of good for me when I've played it. I wouldn't say it's been a game winner too often, but certainly you can attack if you have an 18/18 hits Ill-Tempered Loner and hits you for 18 back. It's a good card. So we'll see some of the uncommons and commons like Pack Song Pup, which has been a real winner. Kessig Naturalist has been really good, and I think it would have more value if it just wasn't printed so much in the packs. Like I think I probably got 40 of the damn things in the packs that I opened, so just so many out there. So some of the value cards, I think we'll see maybe a one-of Cemetery Prowler. It's been quite good in these decks, holding about $10 worth of value right now. So we'll probably see Cemetery Prowler in there. Tolovar, Dire Overlord, he's been quite good. So expect probably a 2 of or a 3 of, maybe even a 4 of him in the decks. I think he's been really strong. I have a Tolovar Commander deck right now, and it's been really good, fast and powerful. Like turn 4 hitting for oftentimes 15-20 damage. So really good, and I don't have anything special in it. Just Tolovar and lots of wolves. So what else? Werewolf Pack Leader has been a really big one. He's been a real bomb for 2 mana, coming out really fast in the games, and expect we'll see 3 or 4 of him. His price is going to drop, folks. We're talking about $6-7 for him right now, and this is going to be a $2 card come when these decks come out. He is for sure going to be in there, and there's going to be multiple copies. There's no way they put less than 2 copies, and honestly, likely 3 or 4 copies of him in the deck. So expect that. Asika's Chariot's a really common card in this deck as well, and don't be surprised if it's in there as well. A lot of these cards, they come over and over because they're so good in lots of the decks. So don't be surprised if there's a copy of Asika's Chariot. I don't think there's going to be 3 or 4, so there's that to it. But it doesn't take that much to knock that card down. It's a $3-4 card, so even if it's knocked down a little bit, it's probably then hard to move. So other things in there that people are using, sometimes we see Cathartic Par. It's not pure. It's not really worth too much. Mulch has been pretty good, but it's not a big deal. Crush of the Weak on occasion. Any of those spells just to sort of spot removal. Thundering Rebuke we could have. Cinderclasm. We could see Burning Hands. What do I see? Are there any others that I'm missing? Anyways, any of those kind of things. Even the one that does 2 damage and sometimes you can scry with it. That one's pretty good. So other cards that we'd expect in here that have value. So Balaged Recovery. A real strong chance of seeing that in this, and it is a great card, recovering stuff from your graveyard. Also got that land drop possibility with it. Don't be surprised if we get one of those in there. Shatterskull Smashing, I actually think this is going to be in the deck. I think we're going to get one. It's my guess is that we have one of these in this deck, and this is assuming that they go this way with the Gruul, but they almost have to. But yeah, I think Shatterskull Smashing is going to be in there. That ability to do a bunch of damage and also get the land drop, it's real strong. So, and they got to build these things similar to what people are playing, so you'd think it's got to be in there. So Howling Moon, probably going to have a copy of that in there. Ranger Class, this is a real good spot for Ranger Class with the Wolves. I know we talked about it in one of the other decks, but I think Ranger Class is going to be in this. And we might have multiple copies. We might have anywhere between 2 and 4 copies of Ranger Class in this, which I don't think I'd mind. It doesn't seem like a card that should be a big investment card. It should be a card that's getting played lots, and I think it'd be good to get lots of copies out there. So the sort of the big money cards that we could see in this, I think Arlen the Pack's Hope, very likely we're going to see a copy. I think even though people are playing 2, 3, maybe even 4 copies of this thing in their decks in Standard right now, I think it's likely we see 1 copy of Arlen the Pack's Hope, and I think it's very likely we see 1 copy. It's a possibility of 2. I suspect there's going to be 1. A lot of people are playing Renin 7 as well.
I don't think we're going to see Renin 7 in this deck. So I'm going to go out on a limb and say that Renin 7 does not make an appearance, but I can't imagine they're going to put 2 Planeswalkers in the same deck. That'd be madness in such a product that's only, you know, $25, $30 a deck. I just can't see them putting those 2 big Planeswalkers in there. That'd be nuts. And Arlen's the obvious choice. So I think your Renin 7 might be safe, at least through this level of reprints. Though, of course, we got the reprints coming up at the end of January in the monster reprint set. So a couple lands probably going to be in there. We're probably going to see a Lear of the Hydra. This is probably the place for the Lear of the Hydra. We could see Den of the Bugbear, but I think it's unlikely. But most likely we're going to see a Lear of the Hydra in this. We're probably going to get a Rockfall Veil, our dual land that was recently reprinted, or even a Pathway. They might decide to go with one of each in the deck, and then you're going to get your basics, and sometimes they put in the sort of the junk that people really aren't playing, but you know, give you maybe the dual colors. So we could see even a what's it called? I don't remember what it's called. The dual land that gives you the snow land in red and green. So the last kind of couple cards that I think might make an appearance, I think probably pretty common to see maybe a Froghemoth could be either in the deck or in the sideboard. It's a real fun card. Comes out really strong at times. And Toski could also make an appearance. I figure Toski's going to make an appearance in one of these decks. I think he's going to get a reprint in something. He's a real popular card, and I think they want a little bit more, unless they have another plan for him. I think they want even a little bit more inventory of him out there. So I think Toski's we're going to get a one of, possibly in this deck, if not one of the other commander decks. So that's about it. So just kind of a recap of these things. They are going to be, all the decks are 60 cards. They will have a 15 card sideboard. They're coming out April 1st, so we're going to see that kind of, it's kind of between sets. I think there's a little bit of a gap there, so it's kind of interesting that they're going to come out then. They do look like they're going to be pretty solid, I think, this year. In general, they put out lots and lots of inventory of these things, so there's no risk of losing out on them, and that is both a good and bad with this kind of product. If you're looking at it as an investment standpoint, it's probably not the greatest. But you certainly get all the cards you need to play the sort of the previous year's goodies. So kind of always tied about whether this product should exist from a just a inventory standpoint. I don't know if they get enough money out of it that it's really worth it. So anyways, we are really pushing our likes right now, really trying to build the channel. So if you are new to watching the channel, please put a like on the video. Just a reminder, comments, we are giving away all kinds of goodies as well, and we'll just thank you for that. If you leave a comment, you get entered into draws. Otherwise, everyone, I hope you enjoyed the video. Everyone have a magical day.